Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining me on this edition of the Service Impact Podcast, where we try to help service businesses sift through all the noise to better understand the truth about today's marketing and advertising strategies, tactics, and emerging technologies. On today's podcast, we're going to be talking about the things that every business should consider when interviewing and looking to work with a new agency. So consider this a public service announcement, because this can set you back significantly. In other words, if you're out looking for a new agency to work with, it means you're probably working with one that sucks right now, and you're done working with the one that sucks. And so don't go find another one that sucks, because if you do, it's going to set you back again 1, 2, 3 years. And it happens all the time, and it's unfortunate, but hopefully I can provide you some framework here that as you're interviewing an agency, here are the things that you need to ask. And I know this seems a little bit weird, because I work in the agency world, but like literally this is a public service announcement. Ours isn't the only good agency out there. There are other agencies that are really good. But I think that there's some common denominators as an agency that works in good faith. These are things that agencies are going to do. They're just automatic. They're a part of who they are. They want to do the right things for their customers. And subsequently, they're going to be prepared to deliver certain things to an interviewing company. They're going to have certain things that basically validate who they are as a business. And I don't think these things are too out there. And the truth is, what we're all trying to avoid is getting involved with a business that could potentially just set us back, and that could be miserable to work with, that isn't going to provide us with the results that we're after. And I get it. There's all sorts of degrees of that. But so often I hear of clients getting involved with agencies that really aren't looking out for them. They're not performing. And, oftentimes we will interview with potential companies that we could work for. Sometimes we go ahead with them. Sometimes we don't. Sometimes they choose somebody else. But generally speaking, I always stay in touch with them just to hear how they're doing. And a lot of times when you go through that process with a company, you come to know people and get to know about them and their families. And so, I've had the experience of speaking with people over years. Sometimes there's clients that we come to know, and 5, 6, 7 years later, we work with them for the first time. And this is pretty common, but I can remember a particular company. And for some of you larger companies out there, this will probably ring a bell for you. But I can remember speaking with them, and every time I spoke with this person, who was their marketing director, she would just lament the difficulties she was having. And the difficulties were a lack of responsiveness. The difficulties were performance related. The difficulties were really that everything that this particular agency had said so eloquently during the RFP process just fell flat once it was time to perform. And they were tied up in a long-term contract. They didn't have any way of getting out, and they were just literally, it was a triage. It was a triage exercise that would span the course of 3 years. And that is, for anybody that's been in that situation, or even a degree of that, maybe it's just a year or 2 years or whatever, but that is absolute marketing hell. If you're working with an agency that literally, where you're watching just the opportunity costs of that, of just knowing, and the stress of knowing that, hey, this stuff's not working the way you envisioned. It's not working the way that they told you it was going to work right out of the gate. And I think there's almost a grieving process of feeling violated, of being angry, of being like, how did this happen? This happens all the time, and it's really sad. And there's a lot of companies out there that don't operate in good faith, and also companies that, may lose key personnel to where they can't even perform anymore the way they did at the start of the contract period. So there's all sorts of reasons that this can go sideways. But the truth is, nobody wants to get into that situation. And I've got some actionables that you can listen to. You can reach out to us if you like this list. I'm happy to send it to you. But I'm going to start with the first one. And the first one is no long-term contracts. Okay. If you are going to engage with a company, do not do a long-term contract with that agency. And here's why. There's a lot of agencies out there that want to lock you into a minimum of a year. And I would say a year is most typical. But why? Why? Why do we need to do a year? For what? And I don't think there's a lot of good answers. The only answer that I can imagine is if they're packing, in other words, if they're doing a majority of the work on the front end of the year, in other words, they've got hours set and they're doing a majority of the work on the front end of the year, but kind of trickling out the costs in almost basically financing the work that's being done. And I just don't know of any good reason. It's like, no, you're on a 30-day. I mean, there's so many businesses out there that operate on 30 days. Distributors are notorious. We have distributor companies that we work for. They're on 30-day contracts with their manufacturers. Okay, so why is it different? If your agency is doing a good job, what do they have to worry about? What could they possibly be concerned with? Are you going to fire an agency that's kicking butt for you? Like, never. You've just gone through and fired the agency you were with before. It's everybody's dream. It's everybody's desire to find an agency that they can trust, that they can work with, that's responsive, that's going to do a great job for them, okay, that has the expertise to deliver. Why would you fire somebody? You would never in a million years. And I think that's the defense to that argument. And honestly, if they are stuck on that, it's a red flag. It's absolutely a red flag. You actually should have a contract, but the terms of the contract in terms of the duration, they don't need to extend. Okay. You need to have an MSA, because a lot of times there's insurance requirements that are tied to an MSA. So if you don't have an MSA with a agency, there's things you could be asking for that you don't realize. You should definitely have some sort of SOW, MSA, letter of understanding, so that everybody knows what's happening. And the truth is that if the agency continues to perform, they've got nothing to worry about, and you're not going to want to get rid of them. So the first thing is no long-term contracts. The second thing is, and I touched on it a little bit with the MSA, and that is you've got to have an agency that's fully insured. And so many agencies are not insured. And I mean the insurers, I'm not talking just their space insured, okay? Come on, seriously? I'm talking errors and omissions. I'm talking cyber. Okay, errors and omissions is basically, I mean, in a nutshell, you're talking about your professional insurance. You're talking negligence, malpractice. It's your professional liability insurance. And any agency you're working for, they should have that. That's not negotiable, okay? You would be surprised. We generally work with companies that are, between 4 million and 300, 250 million, right in there. You would be surprised how many of the agencies serving what we consider, those are SMBs for us, under a half a billion, it's still an SMB. You would be shocked at how many agencies that are serving even $100 million, $200 million companies don't have professional liability insurance or cyber. And you know why? Because it's not, nobody requires it. The only time it's generally required is with the big people with procurement departments that have very, very experienced procurement departments that take you through an RFP process that are going to basically tell you all these requirements that you have to meet in order to do business with them. But you have to require that. That's another red flag. If they do not have that, they're not legitimate. I don't know what they're thinking. I guess they figure if they get sued, they can just shutter the company and call it a day. Cyber is a big one. I mean, right now, you don't go very long without hearing of incidents where somebody's gotten hacked, an employee gets compromised. There's a ton of agencies out there with hundreds and hundreds of passwords. They've got people that are fallible. Stuff can happen. Maybe they don't have a very sophisticated password system or password management system within their business, and you're basically turning your keys to things that are super important to your business over to this particular company. And cyber isn't always included with the professional liability. So it's actually optional. And there's a lot of professional liability companies that won't even insure cyber at this point. Lloyd's of London, probably one of the largest insurers in the world. They are so concerned about cyber exposure that they've made recent statements to where they're thinking that cyber at some point could become uninsurable. So not everybody has it. And my gosh, not everybody has professional liability insurance. So definitely not everybody's got cyber, but make sure that these companies are fully insured. Working with your competition, number 3. Okay. This is huge in the home services business. And we didn't start working with home services until years ago. We work with some larger clients. We got kind of connected to some home service clients. It's been years ago now, but we couldn't believe the number of agencies that were actually working with their customers' competition. And we were sitting there going like, you're doing what? You're working for their oh yeah, they're selling to anybody and everybody. And so it's like, do you have some sort of exclusive right to the services that you're getting within a geo? And define that geo. Like, what are your goals? What are you building towards? If you're trying to, be an HVAC contractor that's, that's serving the Chicago area, but you want to get into Indiana and stuff, and you have a geo that you really want to target. Do you have that kind of outlined with your marketing and advertising agency? Are you going to go work for, if you're in fintech, are you going to go work for another fintech company? Or is there going to be something that's established, like where you could, ask for permission? And we've done that with some of our clients where, there could potentially be a conflict, and we'll just flat out ask them, hey, what do you think of this? And if they're okay with it, we'll proceed. And if not, we don't proceed. It's pretty much that simple. So if they're working with your competition, you've got to ask this stuff, though. This isn't stuff that people are going to offer up. You need to say, hey, are you working with any other plumbing companies in the area? Okay, and are you willing to work with more if I sign on with you, if I come to work with you? So you can simply get those things out in the open right out of the gate, and then there's no misunderstandings. You're not sitting there discovering these things later on and are like, what in the heck is going on? All right, we're going to get into some obvious ones for some. I can just assure you these aren't obvious to everybody, okay? Own your own ad accounts, for crying out loud. Please own your own ad accounts. And I think most people do, but we still run into people where the agency is actually billing them for ads. This is really not good. You need to know what you're paying for. And I just saw one the other day where the company was just sending, this agency was just sending this company, it was a fairly decent sized company. They were just sending them bills. They didn't have any idea where this money, they showed a dashboard. They showed a dashboard of impressions and conversions and all this stuff, but they had no ownership of what was happening with that account. And that is absolutely bad. If you decide to move on, where's all your data for that ad account? Where's everything that you've built up over the course of 1, 2, 3 years? Where is that information? Number one. And number two, how do you get it audited? Audited? Yeah, audit it. Like you don't like what's going on, you hire an audit. You get it audited. Hey, what's going on with this ad account? Is it performing? Okay, this easy segue, and this one is actually less common. And again, less common, you'd think this would just be smaller businesses that this happens to. You're wrong. These are larger companies, like literally like what I would consider decent sized SMBs, $100 million companies that do not own their own analytics. That's like wild. And they just don't know any better, or whoever's running it doesn't know any better. And of course, and this is how this works, okay? Just the game, I've seen it 100 times. Oh yeah, we've got these great dashboards. Oh, wow, that's awesome. Yeah, they're totally customizable. These dashboards will come to you every month on the 5th of the month, and and that's it. And everybody, it's like hook, line, and sinker. You can see I'm a fisherman here. You just ate the bait, you sucked it down to your stomach, and whoever just sold you that is reeling down on it and about to put a 5/0 hook right through your stomach lining, because here's the truth of this. Your analytics are yours. GA4, Tag Manager, and Google Search Console are all free. Everybody should have it. It should follow you wherever, and it should go. Your agency should only be given agency type permissions within those accounts. So you never give up control or ownership or anything. Everybody is a guest in those accounts. If you decide to move on from your crappy agency, you can move on and you've still got your data. Your data is like really, really, really important. Number one, it's difficult to set up correctly. So, getting good data for a company that's getting, hundreds of thousands of leads, you've probably spent some time and money getting those analytics accounts right. It's not just something that just happens. So you've got an investment already there. But the truth is, you need to own this stuff. Anybody that's trying to sell you a dashboard or some sort of proprietary thing, say thanks, no thanks. I want my GA4. I want my Tag Manager. I want my Search Console. You can send yourselves those dashboards and you guys can think they're all great. I just want you to manage my ads or do my local SEO or do my social or whatever the heck you're having them do. But own your own analytics. Finally, get references. Seriously. Okay. Anybody that's done a decent job for their agents, for their agency customers, are going to be able to provide you with plenty of references, and it's not going to be difficult. How long have they been working with them? You can call them, you can email them. Are they responsive? Have you had any problems? Are you happy with their service? And fans of agencies will they're going to talk about them for the same reason. I was telling the story earlier where the lady had just a nightmare on her hands. People that are happy with their agency, they're going to say so. And especially if it's a non-competing business, they're going to basically just be like, they're going to gush. They're going to say, hey, these guys do great. They're really thoughtful. They're really responsive. Nobody's perfect, you guys. We're not perfect. I don't think anybody's perfect. I think there's always room for an agency to improve. But in general, what you're seeing is, hey, these guys are helping us. They're helping us grow. They're helping us generate leads. And that's what you want out of it. I've got all of these that are here, and you can email us. You can reach out to us. And, if you need any help with any of this, I know it sounds weird, you guys. It's like, why would I help somebody else get another agency? But it's like when we started this company, we were just here to serve people. And that's still what we're here to do. We're here to serve people. There's lots of good agencies out there. And if you've got an agency or two that you're already engaged with, and you feel like some of these things would be helpful to your process, reach out to us. We'll send it to you. No questions asked. Absolutely no problem. So if you found any of this valuable, please subscribe and leave a review. Your support helps us continue to bring actionable marketing strategies to service businesses around the country. If you have any questions, feel free to email the show at serviceimpact@outsidecommunications.com. And if you want this list that basically just outline the show, we're going to send that to you as well. We'll see you next time here on the Service Impact Podcast.